Hi there, in this video I'm going to show you how to configure the SRM 872. The basic settings just to get up and running quickly. First thing we want to do is go into the System menu, and we're going to go to Time and Date. And we want to make sure that the clock is correct, so that's recording at the right time and date, your time zone, your daylight savings time. After we do that, we can go to User, and we can change the username and passwords, add them if we need. We can change the password. The default is a blank password, so you may want to change that. Next, we're going to go to Device and Camera. The system will automatically detect any cameras that you plug in, and you can view them right from here. If your cameras are not showing up after about 30 seconds, you may need to factory default the camera, so the camera goes to a DHCP mode, then let the camera rediscover or plug it back in to reboot it, and the camera should show up. Then we can go ahead and change the titles for the cameras if we want. Okay, and then we can also view for each camera the IP address, the port, then the username and password in case for some reason we need to change them. Next, we can view the live profile. So when I'm viewing live on the recorder through the monitor output, what profile is it using? So it's going to list all the profiles that those cameras have. You'll notice that it has the default profile, H.264, the second profile on our cameras. That's the default. You'll notice that this recorder actually pushes some settings to those cameras. It actually automatically sets them to 720p, 30 frames per second, 8 meg. If your camera can do more than that, you might want to edit that. So if I hit edit, you'll see this is all the profiles of my camera. I'm going to change that profile to a higher resolution if that's what I want. I can change my frame rate. And then also 8 meg is probably too high, especially for that resolution. So I can lower that down. I can type in a new bit rate. For my next camera, same thing, I'm going to edit that. You'll see it's set to 720p. This camera is actually a full HD camera. If I don't change it, it's only going to use that lower resolution. So we're going to select that. Again, I don't need that high of a bit rate, so we'll lower it and hit OK. Next thing we can do is if we're using audio, we can enable or disable audio. Most people don't use that. Next, we're going to go down to Record, and then the Record sub menu. We're going to tell the system for timer recording when it's doing like scheduled recording with no events. Should it record full frame or iframes? We want full frame. When there are events or emergency record, full frame as well is typically what you want. Record profile, here we're going to tell it when it's recording what profile to use. Again, typically this will be the same profile we just edited, but you do have the option of splitting those up to different profiles for different needs. So if I wanted to view live on a higher frame rate and record at a different resolution, we could do that from here. Event, if I'm doing pre-alarm recording, we can tell it how long to record beforehand. And then post-event, how long to record after an event happens. And then finally, schedule. So here, for example, it's going to do every day of the week, 24 hours a day, 0 to 2400. And then the mode, it's going to do timer, so continuous recording and event recording. Some people might want continuous recording during the day, event recording at night. Some people might want continuous recording all the time, no events. You might want event recording only. So you can pick and choose how you want that to work. And you can apply that to multiple cameras. So different cameras can be doing different things if you choose. And you can see we can have lots of pages of schedules here. And then again, for the timer and event recording, are we using full frame or iframe only recording? Once you've got that, hit OK. Network, we can go to address, we can view the IP address that the recorder is set to. PoE, we can view the IP addresses the recorder is going to give out, the local address, and then when it uses the DHCP server. IP address list, we can view the addresses and the MAC addresses it has given out to cameras. And then port, we can view the different network ports that this recorder uses. If we're going through a router and doing port forwarding, we can turn on use universal plug and play to try to configure our router for us. DDNS, if I want remote access using SamsungIPolus.com. Notification, if I want the recorder to send information to the callback PCs to notify if an incident happens or send email notifications. And then finally, transmission. This is very important. We can limit the bandwidth, so we have a limited connection like 3G, 4G, so it doesn't max out our connection. But network profile. The default is motion JPEG 640 by 480 at 5 frames per second. This is for viewing the video using the Smart Viewer Auto software or the web browser. This is usually not sufficient for most people. They don't want to see that. So we're going to change that. We could choose a 720p profile if we have those in our cameras, or we could choose the H.264 profile. Whatever we want to do, just make sure you change it from that default, which is usually not adequate, and then hit OK. If you are doing event recording, we can configure each one of these events. So just be aware if you are doing that, go to each one. Sensor, these are the alarm inputs on the back of the recorder. We can configure those. We have motion detection, so from the cameras, we can tell it which cameras to enable motion detection for. We can then tell it when camera 1 has motion detection, what camera should record. Some people might want multiple cameras to record when an incident or an event happens. Alarm, do we want to trigger any of the alarm outputs on the back of the recorder or the buzzer? And finally, notification. Should motion from camera 1 trigger the callback program to a PC or email notification? Same thing for video loss. We have some system notifications in terms of the hard drive or smart errors. We have the G sensor. If a certain amount of shock hits the system, should it start recording? And again, which cameras? Typically record all the cameras. So this will be if a vehicle is impacted, should it trigger an alarm output, should it sound the buzzer, and should it send the notification out. And we can then adjust the sensitivity for the X, Y, and Z axis. Finally, we also have some other IP camera alarms. So we have the sensors, the alarm inputs on the back of the camera. We have video analytics and audio detection. So we can tell the software which one of those alarms we want to listen to for which cameras. And then again, when that happens for camera 1, which camera or cameras should record. Should the alarm outputs be triggered, and should it send notifications out. And that is the simple setup for the SRM 872.